Basketball is my life. I have nothing else.
This is incredible. This is the best grateful I've ever heard.
Shooters. That's what we do.
Shooters, a basketball podcast. Let's go.
Yes, welcome in once again. So I just got back from Tassie. Great trip, by the way. I do enjoy it. It is a good vibe over there. It's just like a calm, soothing presence. Anyway, we're not here to talk about the lovely state of Tasmania, even though it is a great one. Good news. Jack's in the final. Championship series is all his. Him playing Melbourne. That's good news. Here I am. I'm doing another solo episode and I'm looking forward to it. So the situation is that I'm doing this one because I just wanted to chop it up. I just wanted to talk before game one of the championship series, Tassie, Melbourne. That will be tomorrow. I just wanted to talk before that because I'm excited. It's actually going to be a very good series. Just thinking about it in the discussions I was in a meeting yesterday with work and we were genuinely just like, there's so many little angles here that these teams are just like a great it's going to be a great series. Let's just put it that way. There's going to be different angles. There's the bigs, there's the guards, there's both teams as a whole, the coaches, two top coaches of the season most likely. Just narratives like that any basketball fan would love. So I'm going to do this episode, which I'm keen to get stuck into, by the way. But next week, Jack has said that he's keen to do one then. So after game one, whatever the outcome that one is, regardless of whether Jack wins or loses, he's a big enough sport to come on and to just talk about it. So I'll be keen for that one. So yeah, let's get stuck into it. So how did we get here? Like I said, I just got back from Tassie and now I land back in the state of which the first game of the championship series is going to be held. So it's a nice little angle there. But yeah, it's going to be great. It's just going to be, I was thinking about predictions because I can hear Jack in the back of my head just being like, don't be a coward, give us a prediction. So once I talk through this, once I sort of think about it a bit more, maybe I will. But it's going to be tough to pick one. I will say that. So the question is, how did we get here? Melbourne, Illawarra, let's start with that one. It was a large Wednesday night, by the way. Scheduling 2 game 3s on that night was just a basketball fan's dream. It was kind of funny timing because I was still in Tasmania, so I couldn't even go to my home state's game that was hosting the game one. Oh, I'm getting confused here because there's too many things. There's literally too much basketball going on, but it's a good thing. I couldn't even go to game 3 of the decider between Melbourne and Illawarra back in my hometown because I was in Tasmania for too long. So funny scheduling on my end, but it actually turned out better, I thought, because let's just say I was in Melbourne, go to the game, enjoy myself, cool. But you know what I was thinking right after that buzzer goes is just, how's Jack going? How's Tassie Perth going? What's happening in that game? And then I'll be driving home kind of annoyed that I couldn't be watching. So gotta look at the positives because this way I have to just sit on my ass, sit on the couch for 4 hours. Thanks, Jess, for putting up with me for that. She tuned in a bit actually, so maybe I'm slowly converting her to all things NBL, but 2 great games, 4 hours on the couch just watching those games coincide with each other. Coincide isn't the right word, but we'll roll on. Now, I spoke about Daly last time, but his play at the very start of this game was what caught my attention again. He was just it wasn't the offensive output, so to speak, in this game that I was used to seeing in the previous games, but one of the opening plays, I'm sure you guys know which one I'm talking about if you watch the game, but Melbourne missed a free throw. Daly was boxing out. He was doing his thing. He was being a little rat bag down there. I mean it in the best kind of way, in all honesty. Outplayed Gary Clark for the rebound, which had to have frustrated Illawarra fans, coaches, because to get an offensive board when you're a fair bit smaller than your opponent, he grabbed that thing. I'm not sure what happened. I think he did a little dribble move, did something, got the and one, celebrated to the crowd. First thing I thought, he wants this. He absolutely wants this one. Obviously, it's Daly. And it's not even about the player as well. Any player out there, you would think obviously wants that win because it's a decider and it's a good one. So that play stood out to me. I found it really cool, just because he was into it from the jump. Luke Travers started incredibly well. I thought he was leading that thing. It actually made me think. I was just is this the time? Is it finally that time when Melbourne just put their foot down? They kind of decide enough's enough and this thing's over. It's a blowout. That was done. It was 5-16 or something like that. And I was maybe it is that time. But Jack Havron put it perfectly. Illawarra just don't die. They just literally, the whole series, doesn't matter where they were, doesn't matter what you thought of them, they were always going to compete. Hats off to them, which I was going to touch on at the end of this, but just a great run. Like, if you can win in a loss, they pretty much did that because nobody expected them to be that way except for maybe internal. Nobody expected them to take Melbourne, the top of the top. You can't really say they put a foot in the wrong direction all season, but Illawarra took it to them, so credit to them. But no, that Melbourne were just too strong. They only actually won by 6 points in the end because, once again, Illawarra don't die. So credit to them, credit to their culture, credit to those players out there. Sam Folling, once again, I think it was like 6 of 9 from the floor. Maybe should have shot it more, but that's another discussion. But no, Melbourne walked away with that one. Golding hit a big shot down the end, which I really liked because I was thinking to myself, he hasn't really had any moments we're accustomed to during this series. And one of my colleagues, Luke, he kind of put his hand up and he was like, I actually think, like he has, I think he's been quietly consistent when it matters. He may not have those flashy plays, he may not have those 30-point games, big numbers, but when they need to make a shot down the stretch, he's typically done that in that series. So it was an interesting talking point. So Melbourne through, Perth, Tassie. Well, where do I start? It would be rude if I didn't start with Jack. Like, but call it bias, call it whatever you want. But he honestly killed it out there. I think 27 points, shot incredibly well. He shot. I was looking at any three he takes, and when you look in that screen, sometimes you can just picture the ball going in, and he's done it so often. Like, he doesn't miss sometimes. Like, sorry if you go out there in game one and shoot poorly, but it's just the way it's been. So he's been killing it. Milton Doyle. So it's basically Jack and Milton that led them to, I think, the halftime lead, even though it was pretty close. But Milton is back. He's back to what we love. It's back to what every Tassie fan and every NBL fan is kind of accustomed to. It's why he's back here again this year. And I believe he's contracted for next year as well, from what Scott Ross said. Could be wrong. Who knows? Bring him back. I'm sure he will be back regardless, judging by what I've heard, judging by what I think of that team. And what a massive part he plays in it. But I'm getting sidetracked to Doyle's future. But no, Jack and him killed it. Perth are hanging in there tough. I found this very interesting. Did not realize. I know Keanu Pinder's had some question marks about his health, about his injury, about the concussion stuff, all those things that play out. I'm pretty sure he had like 0 points or 1 point in that game. Let me just quickly check that. Yeah, Keanu Pinder, 0 points. 0 or 4 from the floor. That's crazy. Like, that's actually pretty, like, it's pretty insane that someone of that talent can have that type of game in such a big moment. So, Bryce Cotton as well, only 9 field goal attempts. I know he got to the line a fair bit, 6 of 7 from the free throw line, which obviously means he's attacking. He's still taking shots, even though it doesn't, technically show up in the box score like that. But he was only 6 of 9 from the floor, which is very interesting because most of their starters had at least 8 attempts, and you'd think someone like him should and normally does have a lot more than the average guy next to him. So that was that. Tassie got the job done in the end. It was a great, to me, it was still a good game, even though the final score was a bit, not blown out, but it wasn't super close like Melbourne, Illawarra. But there was one moment that stood out to me. I really enjoyed it because, you kind of get accustomed to watching players and like getting to know them, like myself and Jack, which is cool. But there's moments in the game where you kind of pick up on their traits or pick up on something that I'm sure fans would still see, but it helps if you've seen them a lot, and it helps if you kind of know them a bit more as well. But there was a play, fourth quarter. It's got to be a weird mental game where you kind of know you're in front, you kind of know you're probably going to win, but you still have to stay locked in. And this kind of relates to the bucket that I'm about to speak of. And Jack just did he was patient in the post. He I think he sussed out Jordan Usher, who was on him, sussed him out, threw in a little spin, lefty layup, and it looked super easy. Like, it looked very easy for Jack. He's clearly done the moves 1,000 times, and it was just cool. He kind of just ran back with a smile on his face, like, okay, that really helped us. Like, that's going to really help us just basically lock it in. Ran with a smile to his bench. Like, he was just kind of proud of himself and proud of the team. And to me, that was the beginning of the moment where they just celebrated. And the scenes after the game on the court was just, yeah, super cool. Scott Roth, very emotional, man, but I love it. I love how much he cares about Tasmania, how much he says defend the island. He just came to a post-game press interview on court, and he was just like, island defended. And he's just like, if that wasn't a statement in itself, he kept going and talked about what it would mean for the state of Tassie to win one and to even get to where they are today. So the big fella leads from the front, and they're just such a good team. Like, there's moments during that game where you're just like, it is such a team effort. Like, it is such a... I don't know how to explain it. Like, it's everyone. There's teams where you know it's going to be either one or two guys that show up. You know it has to be them. But with them, there's like 4 guys, 5 guys that you can almost just be like, cool, Milton Doyle's got it going. Cool, Jack's got it going. Okay, but what about Jordan Crawford and Will Magnay, Marcus Lee, Sean McDonald, Majuk Den? These guys can literally half carry that team to victory. Majuk Den did it a couple of days ago. Sean McDonald, same. Like, he just plays big off the bench. So if someone has it rolling, it doesn't really matter if the other person doesn't, because they've got them covered. They've got each other's backs, and you could say like they're the best team in the league for what they have in an all-round sense. So I always find that super cool watching Jack Jumpers. But it should be a great one. Now that leads me to Game 1, Championship Series. Like, it's going to be, as I said before, it's just going to be a great matchup. I thought my initial thoughts were like, if I was to pick one sort of topic, it would be the guard play. You got Shea Ely, you got Chris Goulding, you got Daly versus Jordan Crawford, Milton Doyle, Sean McDonald, all these guys. And that's a great like 3 versus 3 matchup that's going to help a lot in terms of who wins those matchups. Kind of might dictate the series. But then you kind of think about the bigs, and you're like Will Magnay, JLA. I'll touch on him later on something I'd love to see from him. But the bigs, Marcus Lee, the Marcus Lee Cup, I always love referring. It doesn't matter what caliber of player they are. If you play your old side, it's the Marcus Lee Cup. It's their cup to earn. So he'll be playing his old side, which always must give you an extra kick. I'm sure it would. You have memories, you might have friends, you might have enemies. I don't know what they've left on, but hey, it's got to add you, it's got to give you a bit more juice. So I'm all for it. I asked myself when I was thinking about Game 1, what do I want to see? And the big fella, Joe Luala Jr. was the name that came to mind, because I'm so used to seeing him in like a dominating sense. I wanted to see those moments where he just kind of, like, he has a dominating stretch where he celebrates, he's mean-mugging down the floor, he's doing whatever. It's not all about those moments. Like, if you're consistent, and he's kind of had some injuries, he's been on the bench, he's been starting, it's kind of been a different kind of year for him. But I want to see those moments where he just is almost selfish. Like, just be aggressive, just aim to like dunk on a few people, aim to get a bit argy-bargy with someone. Like, that's when... It's a player I love photographing. It's a player I love to take photos of. Sometimes when you're shooting, you're just drawn to players, and he has always been one that I've been drawn to. So I'd love to see some moments like that from him. I'd love to capture that on Sunday. I actually think last time we played Tassie, like, not last time, but there was a moment, maybe 2 years ago, because he was out of the league for a year, where he had those type of games against Tassie, funnily enough. So would love to see that again. Milton Doyle, would love if he continues hot form. He's one of the best in the comp. It's great when you get to see guys like that on the biggest stage. Same with Jack, just like a sheer Aussie talent that has been killing it lately. Same with Chris Goulding. Speaks for itself. His resume speaks for itself. So honestly, I'm keen. It'll be a very good contest. And I reckon it'd be rude not to go to Game 5. It'd be rude not to, because they're all like, it's hard to separate them, is the word I'm looking for. Now, quickly before I go, WNBL. So I got off the plane. I knew the WNBL Grand Final was on. Theirs is a best of 3 series, Perth Lynx versus Southside Flyers. Game 2 was on. It was during my flight. I knew if I could get off the flight and basically watch the end, we're happy, I'm laughing. So I did that, literally waiting for my baggage. 3 minutes left in the 4th. Southside were up, so Perth were up 1-0 in the series. So if Perth won, Grand Final winners. How good. But Southside were up, so I'm like, okay, they might be going to a Game 3 here. But it was tight, and they kept pushing. There's a fair few plays, I'm like, oh wait, okay. Like, you have to remind yourself sometimes they could be celebrating after this. Like, that's the Grand Final, it's done. It was a chaotic finish, I will say that. Because, now, it must be hard for any player to have moments where the game's in your hands and you miss, or you do something that makes your team not win. But I've been lucky enough to work with Annalie Maley like on her podcast, and I consider her a friend now. So you have that extra sort of like feeling like, damn, imagine what they were thinking after this. But she had a few opportunities to win the game for them. Simply put, a few free throws, a layup after that. They didn't go down. Mercedes Russell, it was a chaotic finish, as I said. Mercedes Russell from Southside came back down the other way, sunk the game winner on the buzzer. It was pretty cool scenes on the court. It was almost like the commentators were in shock, the teams and players were in shock. But after, I love seeing the celebrations, and Jess will back me up here, because every time there's a big game and I'm watching, it's just like the buzzer goes off. And it's like, oh, I can talk to him now. And I'm like, no, I'm locked in. I want to see what they say after the game. I want to see the celebrations. So I was staring straight at Southside, and once that was done, the camera panned to Annalie Maley and screen, and she just looked distraught. Like she was almost just like, what the hell happened? Like, how did I go from having the opportunity to win our team the grand final, her first year in Perth? Would have been a hell of a story, considering they literally waited until the very last day of the regular season to find out if they were in the playoffs. So, but I still hope that story comes true for them, because I think they're just a talented team, and to me, they've probably got the advantage still. But anyway, Southside tied up the series 2-0. Pretty crazy finish, but I just do think, what players must think after the game, like you're so close to something that you want so bad, and just that happens. So thinking of Annalie, keep your head up. It's just sport at the end of the day. Even though I'm talking about it like it's life and death, it's literally just sport. It doesn't matter too much. It's your job. Yes, cool. We all have bad days at work. So on that note, hang in there. Just look ahead to the next game, and I'm rooting for you. So I hope either way, great. But I have a feeling Perth might get the chockies there. That's it for this one. It's going to be a hell of a series starting tomorrow. Big bloody day in Melbourne as well. So not only do we have tomorrow, Sunday, when I will release this, but not only on Sunday do we have the NBL Game 1 Grand Final Championship Series, Melbourne versus Tassie. That's in Melbourne at 4 p.m. on Sunday. Not only do we have that in Melbourne, you've got over in Parkville, the WNBL Grand Final decider earlier at 1:30 p.m. So if you're in Melbourne, somehow fit them both in. I don't know how you go from 1:30 travelling down and get to John Cain Arena at 4 p.m. But good luck to you. I'll just watch it, go to one, whatever. Be a great day for basketball all over. Once again, I can hear Jack saying give us a prediction for Melbourne, Tassie, but it's actually very hard. I genuinely don't know. My head is torn on this one, because every time I think about it, I think of a different answer. I just think it's going to be close, and that's why I think it's going to go to Game 5. So thanks for listening. Go watch that basketball tomorrow. Great games overall. I look forward to chopping up with Jack next week. So thanks for listening. I'm out of here.